Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Vertigo V-tail design part 2. In part 1 we looked at the design work in the computer with SolidWorks and some of the 3D printed prototype parts. And in this part we're going to step out of the digital world and get our hands dirty and actually make some parts. So basically what I've done is I have printed another part and primed and sanded and polished it out to a really nice finish, and using some of the 3D printed files for the splitter boards and parting planes of the molds, I actually made a mold for this part. It's 3 pieces and it goes together like this, or like this, as you can see. And I'll basically just go ahead and show you how I made this part. It's composite epoxy fiberglass and a little bit of a surface coat, and I took some video of me making this mold, so you guys can check that out now. Let me show you the setup I got going on with the first part of the mold. So I have assembled all those 3D printed pieces that I made, and this is going to be the top half of the mold. All these parts were sanded and primed and polished and waxed, and I have a coat of PVA mold release on everything. And these little pieces you see here are screws coming through. So these screws that come in through the bottom, and these these threaded inserts, which are knurled, so the resin and epoxy and material will grip on these really good. So these threaded inserts are going to stay in the mold. They're going to become part of the mold. And when I assemble the pieces of the mold, I can screw everything together. So again, I used wax and PVA for a mold release. This is a prototype piece. If this was like a production mold or something, I would have used a more permanent mold release system, like a free coat. But this will work out well for what we're doing here. This is going to be a 3-piece mold, as you guys probably already know. And so the next thing to do is to put the surface coat on here, which is just going to be epoxy mixed with some graphite powder and a little bit of Cabosil to thicken it up. And we'll brush it on here and let it sort of start to tack up, and then we'll laminate the layers of fiberglass onto the mold. Alright, I have my surface coat that I told you about applied to the mold, and I have some fiberglass pre-cut. So we're starting, the first layer is going to be a 1.5 ounce glass. I'm going to go to a 3 ounce glass, and then I think this is about an 8 ounce glass. Try to get about 4 or 5 layers of the 8 ounce. And I'm starting with the lighter layers first because it'll help reduce print through. Or eliminate print through of the fiberglass into the mold surface. So I need to just let this tack so that when you touch it, none of it sticks to your fingertip, but it's still sort of tacky. That way, when we laminate all the glass on there, we'll have a good bond between the surface coat and the fiberglass backing. Right. We're ready to go here. This is still slightly tacky, but doesn't come off on my fingers. So let's make this mold. Here's the mold, all the glass is on it. I put just one giant piece of 10-ounce glass on top just to kind of clean it up, because this is going to go into a vacuum bag, and with all the cut up pieces I put on there's a lot of jagged edges. And I just put a bunch of micro balloons and epoxy around the those metal inserts just to smooth those out so the bag won't get punctured on those. So we're going to let this cure for probably at least 2 days. And then I'll trim up the edges and we'll start prepping to make the next part of the mold. Well, I got this mold trimmed up, and I was able to take the splitter pieces off, the parting planes. And it came out about as good as I could expect using a process like this, so I'm pretty pleased with it. And these are just some bits of brass with a 4mm inner diameter that I cut up as spacers, and I'm just testing this out here. So these brass pieces will be embedded in the next part of the mold. And the next step was to print up the next parting plane, which is this guy here. And I'm pretty happy with the way this came out. So this is gonna sit on here something like this. So I'm gonna spray some primer on here and polish this guy out so then I can mount it and do a little more waxing and PVA and lay up the second part of the mold. Alright, all set up to do the second part of the mold. I have the part in the splitter here, and I've waxed and reapplied PVA, and then I put the same threaded inserts on this side, and we have those brass spacers here on this side. So what I'm going to do is just put some mold release wax around the heads of these bolts just to make sure they don't stick. And then we're going to put the surface coat, same procedure we did in the first part of the mold. Then we'll lay up the second part of the mold here. Top coat is applied and it's cured for several hours, so it's just tacky. Doesn't come up on my finger. So we're ready to lay up the mold, and I've cut up a bunch of pieces of fiberglass for the mold. So let's get started. Initially, when I made this mold, I was hesitant to use a balloon inside the mold when laying up the parts. I thought it was just a little too small and complicated for that. So I was kind of experimenting with vacuum bagging and a balloon. It's kind of a technique I heard a little bit about, anyway, I just used some fiberglass and epoxy to try to make some parts using that method. That really didn't turn out very well at all. It was a complete fail. So what I did was I went back to just using air pressure and a balloon, no vacuum bag. I had to 3D print this adapter piece to fit on these molds because I didn't really design these molds for a balloon or pressure. Luckily they were strong enough, and this is basically the nozzle for the airline and an adapter piece with a grommet and just some tubing with a bunch of holes drilled in it. Balloon slips over this. And that's the method I used to actually make a nicer part, or a carbon part. Well, I have two failed attempts with the vacuum and balloon method. Total failures with these fiberglass parts. So I'm done with that. What I've done is 3D printed this adapter piece, and here's the other part. This is basically a tube with a bunch of holes drilled in it and fitting for airline. And we're going to try to use a balloon, which is a more standard method, just a balloon with air pressure. I'm going to go straight to laying up carbon fiber. I'm really tired of messing around with this. I just want one part that's usable. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. I've already cut the materials, all the carbon and a little bit of fiberglass, and I'm just going to go ahead and try to get that laid up and see if we can get a decent part with a balloon. Alright, let's get this carbon layup going. I got my camera mounted on like a new arm to the workbench, so if I bump the workbench it might shake a little bit. So I got everything laid out here. Got the carbon, a little bit of fiberglass, molds are prepped. Got resin, a little bit of resin and filler with black pigment. And the first thing I got to do is make a little baggie with this black pigment here. You see? I'm just going to put this in the baggie, plastic bag with a little hole snipped on one corner. Looks okay. Man, I need more light in here. Black on black is not easy to work with. Hopefully, I doubt any of this you'll be able to see very well on the camera, but get the idea. Okay, call that good. I think I'll start with this guy here, and start with the lightest of the carbon, which is going to go on the outside. Get some epoxy on mold. Gotta do this as neatly as I can. It's such a small part. It's kind of hard. It's actually really hard to work with. Dummy, cut that before you get resin on it. Okay. Last piece here. Oh, that one actually went in real good. I'll have to cut that one. Alright. That's that. Again, I'm going to do some toe. I'm going to put 2 pieces of toe here. Do a shorter piece at the bottom. Kind of on the top. Alright, that's another half done. Side, I'm just going to go ahead and do the other part off camera because I don't want to burn up all my SD card just doing this stuff, and I think you guys get the idea. So we'll come back when I'm ready to put the molds together. Alright, I think everything is done. Here's my less than ideal setup for the balloon. I 3D printed this adapter. Everything's just zip tied together. I did some tests and everything seemed to hold up, so I think it'll work. Obviously, if I was making a mold just for a balloon, I would do it a lot differently. But let's go with this, and hopefully the balloon will hold pressure. Alright, it's been about 20 hours since I made this part, and the balloon held 58 psi for the whole time, so I'm really happy with that. And you can see I got a lot of epoxy oozage, seepage on all the edges basically. And that's a really good sign. So I gotta try to get these pins out. I think this 3D printed pressure mount thing, balloon mount, is glued to this. I did put some mold release on it, but not so much, so hopefully that'll come off without too much damage. So let's see what we got here. I gotta try to open this. We've got a lot of these metal pins, and I'm afraid they may have also glued themselves. I did put mold release on them, but I wasn't quite prepared for the amount of seepage. And everything's really everything's pretty stuck. Oops. Banged the camera. Okay, maybe I'll loosen these set screws. Man, these guys are really stuck. And this definitely might take a while to crack the sucker open. Oh, we got one coming. There's one out. One of 6. Two of 6. Alright, let me try to do this off camera and then I'll come back. Whew, that was a knuckle buster. I did get all the pins out. Once I kind of cracked them, they came out pretty easy, but man, it took a ton of pressure to get them out. So now let's try the clamping screws here. I'm hoping these will be easier. Oh boy, maybe not. Oh yeah, I can feel that threads are completely caked in epoxy. Oh man, this end one is fairly easy. Well, let's try these. Hard, not so hard, really hard. Oh, all right. It's gonna take a while, so I'm gonna do this off camera again. Try to get the majority of these screws out. Wow, taking these bolts out was a major pain. See how caked in resin they are? You can see the very ends there, there's no resin, because that's actually where the threads engage the nuts that are inset into the mold. When I was taking them out, I was hearing a lot of cracking and popping. That's a good sign. Like I already have a gap here, so I have a few bolts left. I'm gonna leave this one and take this one off and see if we can get this top piece off. Ooh, I heard something move. I can see some separation happening. Oh, I'm really hoping for a good part. I just want to move on with this. I don't want to mess with this mold anymore. I want to move on to actually assembling pieces and getting closer to flying. Okay, the screw's coming out now. A little more prep would have definitely helped me out here. Could have put more wax on the bolts. But like I say, I just want one part. I'm not trying to produce these things out of this mold. Alright. Alright, that's only... So we only have this one bolt here holding the side pieces together. Let me see if I can get something happening. Oh, did you guys hear that? Oh, oh. Can you see this? I don't want to get ahead of myself, but wow. That is looking amazing. Wow, wow, wow. Oh, goodness. Getting a little excited. Might be slightly aroused here. Just one. I'm happy that I used 4mm bolts and not 3, because I probably would have snapped off the bolt heads with smaller hardware. Man, that top piece just looked so good. Everyone, keep your fingers crossed. God, it's just the best feeling when you do something like this and it works out. Come on, just one more bolt. And that. Oh! Oh, oh, are you serious? Oh, wow. Can you guys see this? Wow. Now get the balloon out. Oh, Lord. See if I can. Don't want to break it. This is looking so good. I don't. Oh. Oh. Oh, I hope you guys can see this. It's just perfect. Oh. Okay, let me clean this up a little bit. Let me show you what we got here. This part really, it's just like a production part. I couldn't be happier with this. It came out better than my expectations, honestly. There's one little bubble right there, but I don't care at all about that. Everything else is just perfect. Oh, I'm so happy this part is over with. So now we can try to mount it on a boom. Let's see, I have this boom. Oh yeah. Try to get it somewhat. It's not lined up perfectly, but oh, it looks so good. Awesome. So we went through all of that work just to finally get one nice carbon fiber piece, which is this guy right here. It turned out amazing. It was a lot of work, and these aren't even production molds. We'll do aluminum molds for the production pieces, but it came out great. And I have a boom here, and it fits the boom perfectly. So I couldn't be happier with the way that turned out. So that basically wraps up this video, part 2. In part 3, we're going to get into milling some aluminum molds on an actual CNC machine. I got a lot of little video clips from the work that's being done in Poland. They've taken some video of some of the processes and sent them to me, and I can show you guys. So that's what's going to happen in part 3. We might even get into putting the carbon fiber joiner rods in this piece and trying to fit it on the boom, maybe doing the servos and push rods and things like that. I don't know. Part 3 might just be more production stuff, maybe showing you how we're making the actual V-tails themselves. So a lot more to come. I hope you guys found this video interesting, and I look forward to seeing you in part 3.